And I was criticizing the farming community, and a lot of people in agriculture were pissed off at me, and they would write and say, "You don't know what you're talking about." And so I thought, they're right. I should make a connection, and it was through my sense of environmentalism and our need to connect back to the fundamental things that we need, like clean air, clean water, clean soil, and clean food, like critical part of the way that we have to live. And so I said, I better find out what the heck agriculture is. And so I just said, hey, let's sign up and, we'll be on your mailing list. I have to say that joining or, just being a member has been one of the most important parts of my life. I have been amazed because I've come to realize it's not agriculture, it's industrial agriculture. That is really, industrial agriculture is based on turning fossil fuel into food. And it's just not sustainable in the long run. The NFU is just this incredibly progressive group of farmers. And I just am so happy that they've allowed me to remain a supportive member, and I support so much of what the NFU is doing. So I came into it as an environmental critic, and I was educated through the NFU about what farmers are really interested in. They are I attended the national conference in Saskatoon. How many years ago was that? 2 or 3 years ago, and I was blown away by how informed these people were, the farmers were, about climate change, and really looking for opportunities of doing things in a less polluting way. I was very, very impressed and realized how ignorant I really am. Well, I think that now the environmental community is recognizing soil is itself a major carbon sink, and the kinds of crops that we grow and how those crops end up, if they end up in our bellies or if they end up being composted, the very crops that we grow can also be a part of the carbon removal from the atmosphere. So agriculture has really got to be a fundamental part of the way that we deal with the climate crisis. And I think the environmental community is, rather than just saying, look, we've got to stop eating meat, that cows, boycott McDonald's or whatever. And those movements have had an impact on the food chains for sure. But I think we've got to be much more focused on agriculture as a huge potential for carbon capture and storage. And so we've got to be much more focused on working with the farming community to find the best ways of using that soil. I think we have to understand as well that it's the industrial farming, the globalization that is really driving a great deal of big agriculture that is so destructive. So the environmental community has got to be much more supportive of members of the NFU, and realize that as we attack globalization, and I think that globalization is at the heart of much of our um, uh, environmental crisis now. We've got to be much more of a local tribal animal, the way we have been for 95% of our existence. We've got to find that way, and it's, I think, community built around agriculture, local agriculture, as the way that we've got to go. We've got to work together to look at the solutions that are possible. And I feel I'm paying back for a lot of my ignorance and guilt back in the 70s and 80s, when I just was criticizing agriculture rather than trying to say, look, you don't want to eliminate agriculture. It's the basis of the way that we live. But we've got to develop a different relationship with food, it seems to me. I think there is no question that that our demand for meat is a part of the problem. I think that that the livestock, if done properly, can be a part of the continuing sequestration of carbon, but it's got to be done in a very different way. And the industrial scale agriculture is simply not, it seems to me, is not compatible. We've got to change the way that we grow meat. I certainly think that our demand for high meat in our diets is going to change. It must change, but that doesn't mean that we all. I don't think that everybody has to become vegan. It's got to be. It's got it. We've got to stop doing things that are adding more carbon to the atmosphere. I don't happen to think that the way out is to genetically engineer cows so they don't fart. I mean, we think that we can get technology, and get it. I think that we should imitate nature. Biomimicry is the way that we've got to go. And we had herds of bison on the prairies of this country, massive herds of bison, and I don't believe they were contributing to climate change. So we've got to learn to mimic nature. But I think the reality is humans have become so numerous, and our demands are creating processes. It's not just in agriculture, it's a clothing industry, it's the auto industry. I mean, we're demanding far too much. We've got to modify the way that we live. But in the same way, the cattle industry has got to, I think, find ways of not contributing to the problem that exists. Need you. You're not a farmer. You don't know anything. I'm delighted to be a member, and as I've tried to indicate, look, if there's anything I can do to help increase the communication with the environmental community, uh, I'm there, and we've got to work together on this. And I'm humbled by the work that the NFU does. I just think good for you.